Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, ma ba'd. Alhamdulillah, we are very fortunate in Australia and now in Adelaide to receive Sheikh Muhammad Al-Hasān bin Al-Diddū. He is considered as one of the foremost leading Muslim ulama, scholars, jurists of our time. Arguably, he is described by some ulama as the most learned scholar in today's world, a man who is an ocean of knowledge and wisdom and piety. He comes from Mauritania, but travels the world to spread the knowledge of Deen and the knowledge of Islam. And we are very lucky to have him in Australia. He's here for 1 week and now he's in Adelaide for a day. When Sheikh Al-Diddū speaks, he reminds you of the legacy of the great ulama of the past. His depth of knowledge, his capacity to memorize the Qur'an and the Hadith and the books of seerah and the books of history, his mastery of almost all the branches of Islamic sciences, the science of the Qur'an and the science of the Hadith, the science of the seerah, the science of the tafsir, the Arabic language, rhetoric, linguistics, and so forth. I can't describe the Sheikh enough in few minutes, but he is here and we are absolutely honored and delighted. It's a historic moment. It's a momentous opportunity for the Muslims of Australia to having received Sheikh Al-Diddū. This is important because it uplifts us as Muslims, it enriches our knowledge of Islam, and it brings us closer to Allah Ta'ala. But also it's a wonderful opportunity because it's coming close to Ramadan, so it's a wonderful opportunity to prepare us for Ramadan, to allow us to focus and to take the full opportunity of the month of Ramadan, which, as you know, is a month about reforming ourselves, connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rectifying ourselves, becoming better human beings, improving relationships with our families and our relatives and our neighbors, becoming better Muslims, serving the country that we live in, and taking the responsibility of da'wah so that we can become a means of goodness in this country, inshallah ta'ala. And what a better opportunity than having Sheikh Al-Diddū here to remind us of this, to allow us to reconnect again with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our beautiful deen and the beautiful legacy of Islam. So alhamdulillah, we thank Allah Azza wa Jal for giving us this opportunity, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to have him and many eminent scholars like him to visit us in Australia, inshallah.
العمر الثاني من هذه الأعمار الخمسة هو العمر المركزي، وهو عمر التكليف، وهو هذا العمر الذي نحن فيه. هذا العمر
Sheikh said also the second life that Allah Ta'ala has given us, which is the central life. This is the most important life, and this is the life where Allah Ta'ala has given us here now. And this life begins from the moment our mothers give birth to us until we leave this dunya. And he called it markazi. This is the central life, and this is a life of taklif. It's a life of responsibility. Before we were born, there was no responsibility. When we are in this life, there is responsibility. And he says it is absolutely serious and it is absolutely dangerous phase of our life. There was the life in the world of the unseen, there is the life in the womb, and now there's the life here, and then the life in the hereafter. This life here is the most serious and the most dangerous, because what comes next is dependent on what happens here. The beginning of this life and the end of this life is not in our hands. When we were born, where we were born was not in our hands. When we will leave is not in our hands. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created us and He put us in this central life to fulfill a central purpose, He equipped us with everything that we need. He gave us birth into this world, and He gave us the eyes, He gave us ears, He gave us the brains, but we need to recognize that all of those are limited. Your eyelashes, he said, which are closest to you, you can't see them. You have eyesight, but you can't see your eyelashes. Equally, if you stand by the ocean and you were to look as far as you can, your eyesight has a limitation. Likewise, our hearing is limited, our intellect is limited, and all these tools that Allah Ta'ala has given us is limited. The only one thing that is not limited is the wahi or revelation that Allah Ta'ala has given us. And it is this revelation that will shed light on our lives here, the central life, so that we can succeed in the next life. And he said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the human two things. One is the aql. The aql is the intellect, which he says is a wahi min al-dakhil. It's an inspiration from within. Your intellect, your brain is an inspiration from within. And then you have a wahi, which is a aql from the kharij. Then the revelation, as in the revelation that came to Rasulullah, that wahi is an intellect from outside. If we were to only rely on the intellect that is within us, not the wahi, then you will find disputation, you will find differences of opinions, and most likely we will go astray. But if we rely on the wahi that is come to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then surely there will be no disputes, and it will be a guide for the next life. And if they were both to be combined in the right way, they will illuminate this human being. Further, he said, in this world where we are living our central life, this is a world that is known as alam al-mushahada, the world of the tangible or visible, or the world of the seen, the things that we see. And we may be able to comprehend part of this world, but the world of the ghaib, the world of the unseen, definitely we cannot comprehend. Especially a number of things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has kept away from our understanding, and sometimes He gave us some relative knowledge of this unseen world. Of those is, for example, ilm as-sa'ah, the knowledge of the hour. This is a type of knowledge of the unseen that nobody has access to. It is an absolute type of knowledge of the unseen. It's not relative, it's absolute, meaning nobody knows of the hour, the determined time for the end of this world. Not even the closest of the angels, not even Israfil, who has already put the trumpet in his mouth, is waiting for the order of Allah to come, but he doesn't know when that order comes. Then also there is the nuzul al-ghayth, when Allah Ta'ala sends the rain down. In that there is sometimes relative understanding of this part of the unseen world. Allah Ta'ala can give us some science and understanding of when this rain will fall, but it's relative understanding that Allah has given us access to through the knowledge that He has provided us with. But also knowing of what is in the arham, knowing what is in the wombs. Some time ago, people were unaware of what is in the wombs. So in those olden days, to know what's in the womb was completely that fell in the part of the absolute knowledge of the unseen. But now through science and technology, we may be able to see what's in the womb. So that is known as relative knowledge. In any case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made also death is part of His knowledge that nobody has access to. It is the knowledge of the unseen, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take this human being from this world anytime. What we need to realize, he said, is that the knowledge of the ghaib, the knowledge of the metaphysical reality of the unseen world is far bigger and far more vast than the knowledge of the world of the mushahada. And therefore, he said, we mustn't bother ourselves really trying to understand something that we will never understand. There are aspects to the knowledge of the unseen that is not nisbi, that is not relative. You will never be able to understand. And therefore, there is no point in trying to waste your time in trying to understand something that is not going to be understood. For example, he said, take the ruh, the soul. He said, everybody here believes and knows they have a soul. But if I was to ask you, he said, what is this soul? What does it look like? Is it black? Is it white? Is it male? Or is it female? Nobody would know. Because knowing that there is a soul is determined by the fact that Allah told us. What is the nature of this soul is unknown and nobody will know of it, and therefore trying to indulge in finding out what it is essentially a waste of time. Equally, the existence of Allah is known. We know Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala exists, but Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala also is part of the unseen reality that the human intellect will never be able to understand and completely comprehend. We have some understanding of who Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is through the wahi that He has given us, but we will never be able to comprehend Him fully because Allah Ta'ala is part of the unseen world. Essentially, He's saying to us, don't waste your time in things that you will never be able to fully comprehend, especially those related to the world of the unseen. Secondly, He said, in this life, central life of ours, Allah gave us what He called a grace period, muddat i'fa, a grace period where for a certain number of years, Allah will not take you into account. And that is from childhood until you become baligh. Allah will not take you into account. Allah will not hold you responsible. So you have a grace period. But the minute you become of responsible age, the clock starts ticking and you will be held responsible. And the most important period of this central life is shabab, is youthfulness. And he said sometimes people will define youthfulness as adolescence, a period of adolescence. He said, I don't want to define youthfulness in terms of age or in terms of duration, but I want to define youthfulness in terms of willpower, in terms of determination, in terms of being able to do. He said, for many a times you might find a person who is old of age, but young in spirit. They are old of age, but they have the determination and the willingness to do what many young people can do. And you might find young people who have old spirit, who are unable to do what an old man does. And so what we want of the young people, the youth, is that you don't look at your youthfulness in terms of your age, in terms of the duration, but look at the ruh al-ma'nawiyya, the morale that Allah Ta'ala has given you, and the himma, the determination, and to leave a fingerprint behind you, to leave behind you something, a legacy through which you will be known, and a legacy that is good. And that is what we want. That is what we understand of shabab or youth, which is a very important period of this central life, which Allah Ta'ala has given us here and which will end very soon.
محاولة الإضافة والإنتاج وأن يتركوا بصمات فيما يؤثرون فيه. هذه روح الشباب، هذا المقصود بالشباب هنا في هذا